Have you ever wondered why Dark Souls feels so different, so brutal, and yet so incredibly compelling? It's more than just the challenging gameplay, and it goes far beyond the intricate lore. Dark Souls lays bare the harsh realities of life, echoing the philosophical concept of nihilism, the belief that life is without objective meaning, purpose, or intrinsic value. In the brutal world of Lordran, Drangleic, or Lothric, the themes of nihilism aren't just present, they're lived out through every action you take. So prepare to die, to learn, and to gain insight into the philosophy of Dark Souls and its exploration of nihilism. You may find that this harrowing journey brings you not only a deeper understanding of the game, but also a more nuanced perspective on your own existence. So grab your Estus flask, steel your nerves, and let's step together into the foreboding darkness of Dark Souls philosophy. In Dark Souls, death isn't a sign of failure. It's a part of life, a cycle that loops indefinitely. You're an undead, forever destined to respawn at the last bonfire you rested at, losing all your souls, the in-game currency, and experience points. This relentless cycle of life and death can feel like a futile struggle, an echo of Friedrich Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence, the idea that we're doomed to live our lives over and over again in a never-ending cycle. Nihilism, from the Latin word nihil, meaning nothing, suggests that life is without objective meaning, purpose, or intrinsic value. This concept is embedded in every facet of Dark Souls. The world is crumbling, societies have collapsed, and you, the protagonist, are thrust into this chaos, seemingly for no reason at all. Your purpose is shrouded in obscurity, and your efforts can feel fruitless against the monumental tasks ahead. The cryptic narrative design of Dark Souls itself also hints at nihilism. You receive minimal guidance, leaving you to piece together the narrative and find your own meaning in the ruins. This could be seen as a direct reflection of the struggle to find meaning and purpose in our own lives, where clear answers and directions are often elusive. The NPCs you encounter, from the morose, crestfallen warrior
Well, what do we have here?
to the deranged Knight Lautrec,
I am Knight Lautrec of Karim. I truly appreciate this, and I guarantee a reward. Only later.
all exhibit a form of existential dread. Many of them end up losing their sanity, becoming hollow. In the world of Dark Souls, to go hollow means to lose any shred of purpose or motivation, to surrender to the utter despair of their existence. A direct parallel to the nihilistic perspective that life is ultimately meaningless and devoid of purpose. As we journey further, we'll delve deeper into how Dark Souls represents various aspects of nihilistic philosophy and challenges us to reevaluate our understanding of life, death, purpose, and meaning. Because in the end, the struggle in Dark Souls is not just against the monstrous enemies that lurk in the shadows, it's a struggle against the very essence of nihilism itself. Yet within the darkness and despair, there's a glimmer of light, a flicker of hope. It's found not in the game's lore, but in its very design and mechanics. This forms the crux of our next part, where we look at the inherent optimism that the Dark Souls series offers amidst the nihilistic world. While Dark Souls embodies nihilism, it also offers a counter-argument, an affirmation of life through struggle. Much like Nietzsche's philosophy of embracing life with all its sufferings, Dark Souls requires the player to affirm their existence in the face of relentless adversity. It's not the despair that defines you, but the will to continue despite it. Mechanically, this is reflected in the game's difficulty. Dark Souls is notorious for its ruthless challenges that push players to their limits. Every death feels like a small defeat, an inch closer to the precipice of despair. But every victory, however small, feels momentous. By overcoming the challenges, the player finds meaning in their struggle, giving a sense of purpose in a world seemingly devoid of it. Nietzsche proposed the idea of amor fati, or love of fate, the stoic acceptance of one's life with all its trials and tribulations. Dark Souls promotes a similar philosophy. It's about accepting death not as a finality, but as a stepping stone to progress. Death in Dark Souls is not the end, but a chance to learn, adapt, and overcome. Moreover, the game places a significant emphasis on player agency. You're free to explore, take different paths, and shape your own experience. The story is not handed to you on a platter, but requires active engagement to piece together. In this way, Dark Souls allows for the creation of personal meaning in an otherwise meaningless world, rejecting the nihilistic notion that life is devoid of purpose. And finally, we arrive at the heart of Dark Souls' struggle against nihilism, the concept of hollowing. In Dark Souls, hollowing occurs when an undead loses their sense of purpose and gives in to despair. Staving off hollowing is perhaps the true challenge of the game. It's not just about surviving, but maintaining your purpose and humanity amid despair. It's this commitment to facing harsh realities that further ties the world of Dark Souls to Nietzsche's philosophy. Nietzsche famously stated, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." This echoes loudly throughout your journey in Dark Souls, where hope is scarce, but the will to persevere is rewarded. In the haunting landscapes of Dark Souls, you encounter beings who've lost their purpose and given in to despair. These hollowed NPCs are not only opponents, but also a chilling reminder of your potential fate. They exemplify what happens when one succumbs to the despair brought about by a nihilistic worldview, a loss of humanity and descent into madness. But in contrast, those characters who've kept their sense of purpose, despite the dire circumstances, stand as beacons of hope in the bleak world. Characters like Solaire of Astora, who maintains his jolly demeanor in quest to find his own son, is emblematic of Nietzsche's Übermensch, the one who affirms life despite all hardships. The gameplay mechanics further underscore these philosophical underpinnings. Each death serves as a lesson, a stepping stone towards mastering the game's complex mechanics and understanding its intricate world. This aligns with Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence, the idea of living one's life over and over again, and each time with more understanding and affirmation of one's existence. By intertwining gameplay and narrative with philosophical concepts, Dark Souls delivers a profound message. In a seemingly absurd and meaningless world, it's the struggle and our will to overcome that provides meaning. This resonates powerfully with Nietzsche's call to affirm life, to become who we truly are, and to create our own meaning in the face of nihilism. As we conclude, it's worth noting that Dark Souls doesn't offer any easy answers. It doesn't sugarcoat its harsh realities or handhold the player towards enlightenment. Much like life itself, it's a challenging journey of discovery, understanding, and ultimately personal growth. A testament to Nietzsche's quote, "To live is to suffer, to survive is to find some meaning in the suffering." As we venture deeper into the Dark Souls universe, the philosophical underpinnings begin to crystallize. The game's lore and symbolism create a bedrock for its nihilistic discourse. From desolate landscapes that embody the futility and impermanence of existence to characters such as Knight Artorias and Siegmeyer of Katarina, whose tragic tales underscore the inherent meaninglessness of their struggles in this decaying world. One of the most striking symbols in the game is the bonfire. On the surface, these are merely checkpoints, but in essence, they represent glimmers of hope in the unrelenting darkness. They are spots of respite, warmth, and safety amidst the horrors of the world outside, a brief respite before the next trial. This perfectly encapsulates the human experience. In the face of life's trials and tribulations, we too find small comforts and respites, only to be thrown back into the struggle. It's the perfect segue to our next discussion, the metaphoric representation of life's existential struggles, rekindling the flame. A recurring motif in Dark Souls is the act of rekindling the flame, a desperate bid to keep the darkness at bay, even if just for a little while longer. This is symbolic of humanity's struggle against the inexorable march of time and the inevitable end that awaits us all. But it's not just about staving off the darkness. It's about choosing to push forward, choosing to keep fighting, choosing to live, even when everything seems bleak and hopeless. In many ways, Dark Souls is a stark portrayal of the human condition. We are born into a world we don't understand, forced to navigate its complexities without any promise of ultimate meaning or reward. We battle our demons, face our fears, and trudge forward, because that is the essence of life. Yet the game teaches us that even in this bleak landscape, even when everything seems steeped in futility, there is still room for courage, hope, and perseverance. This is a valuable lesson in confronting our existential fears. The essence of life is to keep moving forward no matter how insurmountable the odds may seem. It's a sentiment that resonates deeply with the philosophy of Albert Camus, who suggested that we must imagine Sisyphus happy. Just like Sisyphus, the characters in Dark Souls continue their struggles, fully aware of the cyclical nature of their existence, thereby embodying an absurdist resistance to nihilism. Throughout the Dark Souls saga, the player is faced with countless choices. Every interaction, every path taken or not taken, every battle won or lost is the result of a choice. Yet the game doesn't prescribe a correct path. It leaves the player to grapple with these choices, to determine their own fate in this harsh and unforgiving world. This, arguably, is Dark Souls' ultimate lesson. In a universe that seems steeped in nihilism, where life and death are part of an eternal, meaningless cycle, choice becomes paramount. Do you choose to submit to despair, or do you find your own purpose, your own meaning? In a way, this parallels the existentialist response to nihilism. When faced with the seeming absurdity of life, existentialists argue that we must create our own meaning, forge our own path. Dark Souls, in essence, is a journey filled with hardship and struggle, victory and defeat, life and death. It's a journey that mirrors our own, and the choices we make throughout are what define us. The game's apparent nihilism serves not as a depressing end, but as a starting point, a call to create our own meaning in a universe that refuses to hand it to us. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the philosophy of Dark Souls. If you enjoyed this exploration and want to learn more about philosophy through the lens of other video games, movies, books, and more, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications. And as always, continue to question, continue to wonder, and keep seeking the wisdom hiding in the world around you. See you in the next video.